You're listening to another episode of a Mindful Moment podcast, and I'm your host, Will Nicholls. And I just want to take a minute to thank you for taking a moment to be mindful with Brent and I on the forecast. What's up, Brent?
How you
Welcome
doing? How you
back.
doing? Oh, so excited for this one.
Always a pleasure. We always have a good time, and it's Pisces season. It's that time. It's that mystical time of year, that wonderful gung hei fat choi time of year, Pisces season, Lunar New Year. And yeah, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to start with just talking about the nature of the sign as we normally do. And Pisces is a very special sign because, I mean, not only is Pisces the final sign, but Pisces is also the sign which represents really everything and all of the signs combined. And that's that mutable water, which we'll so beautifully talk about. But one thing I want to say too is just happy birthday to the lovely Pisces risings, Pisces moons, Pisces suns of this this world. That's right. If you have any solid Pisces placements here, it's a good season. So yeah, I am a Pisces rising. Let's get this. And Brent and I were joking before. Say who's more Christ-like, Pisces risings or Leo risings?
Yeah. I feel like as a Leo rising, I'm looking at the Pisces risings, wishing that's what I was.
That's it. And Pisces risings, I mean, the reason that they just trump all is because they just take all the good qualities of Leo and mimic them, and then it just becomes their own thing, and everyone's like, damn, these kids, he's like Messiah over here, you know, like so yeah, I mean, just talking about the nature of Pisces. Pisces is the Christ, right? And like, it's interesting that we got to do the Aquarius podcast last time and then the Pisces podcast, because these are the two ages that we're kind of in between right now. So it's good to kind of dialogue between these signs, because it's important for us to know. It's important for us to obviously know about the Aquarian archetypes and the energy of Aquarius and what that all means. But it's also very, very important to know the Pisces stuff, because these are a lot of the patterns that we're undoing now. These are a lot of the illusions that collectively we're working through, we're working past, and then also integrating in many ways as well. Because, you know, when we leave an age, it's not like we're just abandoning everything that age represented. We're taking all of the qualities that we wish to push forward into the next stage and utilize them in the best capacity, and we're letting go of all the old qualities that we don't need. You know, it's like as the great Sylvia Browne says, take what you need and leave the rest, right? And that's kind of what we're doing collectively with all this Pisces stuff. And we had a good conversation today, Brent, about that kind of transition of between Pisces and Aquarius, specifically in the context of religion. And where we have, you know, the Piscean age is all about, you know, do as I say, not as I do. You know, it's like the Pisces age is kind of that giving away the power to the authority, because the authority is the one who connects with God. The authority is the one who connects with source, and then we connect with the authority. You know, Aquarius energy is just going straight after, you know, going straight into that energy. Like there's no gatekeepers anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the gatekeepers are not gatekeepers, they're just communities. And all these different communities that are popping up in the age of Aquarius, that's what's bringing us together. So it's not about one religion dominating like it has been in the Pisces. It's like whoever has the most is the winner, and you know, they're the best. This is the religion.
Well, it seems also in the Piscean era, there was this boundlessness. There's no boundaries to define per se, like what God is, what God isn't. It's everything, right? And so the person who had the authority back then would have been speaking on behalf of what was bounded, what was in some essence dogmatic, in some essence just structured and organized. But we look in our Aquarian age where everything kind of has its own little boundary, and we're working to see what fits in and what doesn't fit in, what we can include, what we can exclude. And now it's almost like the getting away from boundlessness into too many boundaries sometimes. And there's this weird tug of war between those two concepts of where does the boundary lie?
Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, when we look at kind of the Piscean dogma versus the Aquarian dogma, the Piscean dogma, or that whole kind of age of Pisces that we're coming out of, that's all surrounded by, like we said, giving away your power to the authority. The authority being the church or the holy man. It's like the age of Aquarius is recognizing that we are the holy men and women, and we're able to connect directly to that. We don't need the filter anymore. We don't need the illusions and the mysteries and the smoke and the mirrors and all this stuff. We can just go straight to the source. And going straight to the source can be really overwhelming, though. That's the downside, and that's what we were talking about earlier with the kind of age of information, the age of Aquarius and the age of air and all that stuff. It's like we can get very, very overwhelmed by all this information to the point where, I mean, it's no longer physical ailments. Age of Pisces was physical ailments. You'd have to worry about polio and gangrene and lupus and the Black Plague and leprosy and all that. Now it's mental illness. It's all neurological, neurodegenerative illness. These are the main causes of pain, suffering, death in our society. Suicide rates, all that. That's all related to mental. It's all an overwhelm of information. We don't know what to do with it. And so the way that the Aquarian kind of systems of dogma versus the Piscean systems of dogma differ is that the Piscean systems were kind of all over the place. Like it's this like you don't have enough information, so you're forced into these organized structural religious bodies like the Vatican and Islam and Judaism and all these different major religions. You're forced into because they have the information. And it's kind of like, I'm either here or I'm there. I don't know where I am. I'm like, okay, Allah, I get it, but then God, but then there's Yahweh, and then there's Buddha, and then there's Nirvana. There's all these different ways. There's always different. We're kind of like, well, what's the right one? That's the kind of whole age of Pisces mystery. And then you kind of just go off of what you've been brought up in. It's like if you've been brought up in Islam, then you're a Muslim. If you've been brought up in Christianity, then Now we have the data out there. We have the ability to research. You have the ability for pretty much the first time in history to be whoever you want to be, because you have the information to be whoever you want to be. Meaning you can be a Buddhist when you're brought up in a strict Muslim or Christian background. You can be a Muslim if you're brought up in a Christian or Jewish background, because the information, the data is there. It's accessible. Now, the problem with that is there's that overwhelm. There's too much information. And that's the kind of like craziness that happens in Aquarius is we need to have structure to the thinking, to the information, right? We need to have compartments. We need to have groups and communities and togetherness, because if we don't have that, we don't have some structure here, then not only it's no longer a case of, where do we have access to the information? Now it's a case of what information's true, what information's not true, what information works, what information doesn't work, what information's right and what information is not right. Now we have to sift through all of that. And the whole purpose of communities and dogmas and creeds and schools of thought is to do that for you. Mm-hmm. So, these are people that are applying it, embodying it, and saying, hey, listen, this has worked for us for thousands of years, this type of thing. So it's going to work for you, if you apply it and you do it this way. And that's the whole point of communities.
That's some of the criticism, too, of the New Age. When people are kind of insulting or attacking the New Age, there is this idea that we are actually taking what has been applied for thousands of years, and we're deconstructing it and saying we need to be progressive and change it and apply these new principles. Because I have the internet, I have this new idea of God where I can be whatever I want to be, and to some degree that adds so many layers of complexity to the mix. Wouldn't you say that almost dogmatically following the religion that you're born into is how you keep it simple, how you avoid the mental illness of saying, am I going to be a Buddhist? Am I going to be an agnostic, an atheist? Am I going to be a Christian? Am I going to be this? Am I going to be that? It's almost like having the levels of complexity almost suggests that we need that sort of dogmatic structure. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, totally. And that's because we do need the structure. If we don't have it, then we get caught in that overwhelm. And as we were talking about earlier too, because I think like everything that we talked about was so relevant to obviously to what we're talking about here, and that is that back in the day, like let's just take yoga for example. If you wanted to study yoga, right, you go to India, you have to find a guru, and you have to study with him for a minimum of 10 years for him to give you pretty much 10 plus years, 10 to 15 years for him to give you one meditation, right? Or one little kriya that you would do every day, all day, every day. And, it's like now you go on the internet and you can buy a book and have 2,500 meditations and kriyas and yoga flows. And the respect and the reverence towards the information due to just the large quantities of it is not as revered. And that has its downsides, right? There's a certain magic about the whole Piscean kind of word of mouth, bringing it down in through the lineage. There's a certain magic of that because the reverence is there. Maybe the information's not, correct, or there's some iffy kind of parts of it, but because of the reverence, because of the dedication, because of the commitment, because of the devotion, and that's Pisces devotion, it's magic. It worked, and it was effective, and it had power. Now we have so much information, we have so much garbage, but then there's also amazing information that's very, very sacred, and we can't recognize that because we're not able to sift through. So one of the biggest faculties that we can build in the age of Aquarius is discernment, intuitive discernment. And discernment is the Aquarian trait, and the intuitive discernment is the Pisces trait. So that's what we need to bring with us into this age, is that intuition. And then we need to integrate that into discernment. And that's how kind of we flow from Aquarius to Pisces, because discernment is good, especially along the spiritual path. If you don't have discernment, you're lost. You're gone. You're just gonna be this gullible, believe every little chauvinist that comes along your way, But if you're not connected to the intuition, then you're gonna sift through a lot of material that may seem a little kooky. It may seem a little kooky, and you may seem like, oh, I should probably not listen to this, but intuitively something just feels good about this. Like something feels really right about this. It's like if you're not having that, then something, there's not that mind-heart alignment. And you need both of those things. We need the intuition. Like that's how we navigate this age. That's how we know that this information, like I said, there's no shortage of information. We all know this, right? There's no shortage of information. You one Google search, you freaking 20 million hits, right? No shortage of information, right? But the right information. How do we know what is the right information? How do we know what is the legit information? How do we know what is the sacred information that really, really hits? Intuition. That's how. That's the only way. Because we can discern, your eyes and ears will always deceive you. Everything, like things look better than they are, and other things look kind of weird and sketchy. But there's something intuitively that's just like, yes, this is right. And I think that brings me to talking about Pisces and kind of moving the conversation towards the kind of Christ light and what that looks like, the divine connection, which is what Pisces symbolizes, is that reconvening with the divine. It's going back into the waters. We were born from the waters, and we go back to the waters. We're born in the waters of the womb, the waters of earth, and we leave in the waters of the divine. And that kind of full circle. And it's funny because we all come out head first, and that's Aries, coming from the womb head first, leaving the water, coming in to this world head first. And that's how we all come in here, and we leave, and we drift off. We drift off, and we drift off into, and that's the etheric, these kind of spiritual waters, the holy waters. That is the kind of the more mystical side of Pisces that we see, which is the Christ energy. So the Christ is a symbol, right? It's a program. It's a symbol, and this program or symbol allows us to tap into something that is a reflection of our true being. Like our true being is the light of the, whether you want to call it the Christ light, the holy light, the divine light, God's light, whatever. There's a bajillion words for you to call it. It doesn't really matter. But the light, the inner illumined, the sun, right? That is what we all have a connection to. And Pisces reminds us of that connection and shows us how, right? Pisces says that I'm going to leave the divine waters to show you how to get there, because that's what's important. It's not just about me getting there. That's the kind of old world spirituality. It's like, I'll just hold the space for people. I'll just, those gurus and the meditators and the monks and all, they were space holders. They were holding a specific frequency on this planet to help this planet, evolve and get to where we need to be going. That's the role of these, those people. Nowadays, there's still people like that, but the majority of us are here to create tangible responses and actions in the world. That's what's needed. We need to be more active. But when we connect to the Pisces light, when we connect to the Christ light, we're bringing in both that space holder consciousness and the active consciousness, because we're leaving the all to come into the all, but in a kind of the matrix, right? Like we're not ever disconnected, but we're born into the illusion that we're disconnected, and we spend our lives coming back to that. And that's really the journey of Pisces, is that full circle from the waters back to the waters. And truly the waters never left, right? They're always, because we are 70% water. It's always with us. It's always flowing.
Do you feel that way as a Pisces rising, that the amnesia that we have as human beings, that loss of spirit, that loss of soul as we're incarnated, as we learn as humans, do you feel like as a Pisces rising, that's something that you have intuitively understood and resonated with? Because me as a Leo rising, I went through the entire journey of letting go of the idea of that hope of something out there. And I went through an atheistic phase, went through an agnostic phase, I went through all of these disbelief phases. As a Pisces rising, have you always felt that knowingness?
Yeah, for sure. Like I wouldn't say there's ever been a moment in my life where I've truly felt disconnected from God. Like even I think back to like even some of the darkest days of my life, and that's literally been the only thing that's there. Everything else seems like it's gone to shit and that there's nothing there and it's meaningless and it's pointless and blah, 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 blah. But all that was remaining and all that was left was the Christ light. And that to me, like I remember having full on conversations with God, when I was like 5 years old, like just in bed, prayers and just talking. And I would always get responses back. And that was never weird and then you grow up and you kind of go through that phases out because your focus is on reality and not that. And then you learn that and you go through awakenings and go back down into the spiral again. But I've always felt connected to that. I would say there's probably like a very short period of my time where I didn't feel as connected, but it was still there. If I I could feel it. I wouldn't say it was like more of a conscious thing. There was definitely a moment in high school and, going through your own shit and, getting your identity ripped apart and rearranged and you're trying to figure out who you are and where you're going and all that. That was the time where, it kind of felt like, okay, that, I never questioned if God was real. It was always just, how relevant is it to my experience? And it's just because I was unfamiliar. I didn't.
And grappling with God seems like something that is so crucial to actually knowing God as well. It's like if you just know God your whole life and you don't ever question it or don't ever struggle with it or get challenged by it, then you really don't get that deeper depth of almost a recommitment of understanding what your mission is and what your self is in this world.
Totally. I just think about in the Bible, they talk about Jacob wrestling with the angel. Like Jacob got his hip dislocated by God. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
talk about wrestling with God. But I
even with Job as well. Job
yeah,
Job had everything taken from him. You know, it's yeah.
yeah. No, I think the struggle is necessary until we realize we don't need to struggle. You know, and that's true of any sort of struggle, any sort of malice, any sort of discomfort that we create for ourselves. It is absolutely necessary until we realize that it's not necessary, and we can live life in a more conscious way. And does that mean that nothing quote unquote negative will ever happen to you? No, but it does mean that you have the capacity to deal with it. You will always have the capacity to deal with it, and you'll never not have the capacity to deal with it. And that's the power of, I think, trust and true faith.
Yeah.
And that's really, to me, what Pisces represents at the highest level is complete devotion.
Yeah. And there is a duality with Pisces as well, being one, immutable sign, but two, the embodiment of everything.
Yep.
And it seems like in contrast is actually where you find the most unity, truly.
Of course.
So I have a question between the Age of Pisces and the Age of Aquarius for you. When we look at prominent philosophers such as especially Nietzsche, who talked about the idea that God is dying and that he's being replaced with, let's say, science or the human mind, when it comes to those ideas, it seems like today more than ever, people are struggling with the idea of the Piscean spirit, having this connection to soul. People are feeling empty. People are feeling hopeless. People are feeling, unlike how you felt, you've had this resonance with God your entire life where you've related to him and maybe struggled here and there. It seems like the majority of people have the side of Pisces where they want to kind of hide away from it, where when that amnesia starts fading away, there is a reason to run away every time, or there's an excuse or some kind of victimhood. What kind of advice would you give to somebody dealing with that side of Pisces, and how does one wrestle with that in our modern age, going to the Aquarian age?
Yeah, well, I mean, first and foremost, I don't think that God is dying. I think that there's definitely rebirthing happening on the planet of our definition of what God is and what source is and what creator is. But I think, and perhaps, and maybe I'm wrong completely, but perhaps what Nietzsche was talking about was more or less along the lines of this rebirthing. And because to me, what's happening is science is being birthed, or spirituality is being birthed out of science. And we're realizing that, like what they're doing in quantum physics right now, if you went back 50, 100 years ago, they would call that pseudoscience.
Einstein did. He did. He said God doesn't roll dice.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's the thing. We're not leaving that age completely behind. Like the movement between ages is, one, it's slow. It's not like a boom, we're there. It's a slow progression and often very painful in many ways, because we're shifting
29th degree.
Yeah. But I would say, just in general, we need to remind ourselves that there is no separation. And when we can be tapped into that level of devotion, that level of trust, that level of faith, of knowing with all our hearts, knowing that, where we're at right now is we're in that in-between stage, and it's confusing. And there's so much information, there's so much overwhelm, and it's very easy to get caught up in the labels and the mysteries and the information and the kind of flip-flopping around, going from this to that and that to this and so on and so forth. Like there's a lot going on, and it can be very overwhelming. But I think when we're tapped into devotion, when we're tapped into faith, and to me, devotion is a higher commitment to something beyond yourself. It's and you can be devoted to yourself, but it's a higher level of commitment, where it's really unconditional commitment, because it's unconditional commitment to something worth unconditionally committing to. Because to me, you can't devote yourself to something that you cannot unconditionally submit to and devote to, because that's not true devotion. True devotion is unbounding. True devotion is like there's no limit on that, on true devotion. True devotion is I will give my life for this cause. Whether that's a holy purpose, whether that's a selfish purpose, whatever. Devotion is that unconditional commitment. And true devotion comes from a soul and comes from the heart, not from the mind. So the mind can decide, but the true calling, like if the mind does decide that, and it's something that is, truth, then it's coming from a higher impulse, and mind is just processing and acting on behalf of the soul. But true devotion comes from, it's a soul urge. It's a soul urge that says, this is it. This is what I've been after. This is where I've been going. When you think about this, the student, the yogi who dedicates his life to the guru, that dedicates his life to his guru. It's not like we look at it from the Western perspective and we say, oh, well, this guy's brainwashed, or this guy's just like obsessed, or he's putting all his power in his guru. That's not what it's about at all. And that's actually one thing that I did want to talk about when in relation to Pisces too, is when we have this idea of worship, or we have this idea of devotion to something beyond ourselves, we think of it in such a negative term.
Yeah, definitely.
We think of it in such a negative way. Like, why is having complete devotion to God beyond yourself, complete devotion to God, why is that seen in a negative light? When that should be seen in the highest light, that should be held in the highest reverence, because that's truly what we're after. We're not after anything less than that. We're chasing, and everything we chase, we're seeking that. Truly, we're seeking that level of devotion and commitment. We do seek it, but when we don't get that intense hit, this is what devotion is. Devotion is a momentum. It's not it's a continual decision. It's a continual decision to commit to something. And I always say that to clients and to people when we talk about in the context of love and relationships, like
especially
it's a continuous commitment. It's not like, okay, we got a ring on our finger now, like, it's all good. It's like,
well, in fact, when the ring gets put on the finger, that's actually when sometimes the comfort starts to kick in, and then all of a sudden things start to derail a little bit. There's a bit of healthy anxiety behind that keeps us continually like recommitting to each other.
That's it. And it's a choice, because commitment is beyond love. You're not going to love someone every day of the year. It's just not how it's going to work. Your soul can love them, your heart can love them, but the personality isn't. You're not going to love them every day. There's gonna be days where like, fucking, like, you want to rip your fucking head off, like that's just human nature. But the kind of overlying fundamental of that is that you committed to loving them, which means that you're going to make the choice that even in those moments where you don't feel like it, and there's many of those moments, you are going to love anyways. And I think that's something that a lot of people have lost.
Yeah, that's where I think Nietzsche would have been right, where we would have lost that kind of commitment to one another. And especially if we look at modern dating, when we talk about dating apps, when we talk about this idea that, as soon as you have conflict in a relationship, well, there is all these other people waiting on the sidelines, and you just jump from them to them to them. And it's like information's the same way. It's like, if something doesn't fit your belief, just look into something else. And it's we've lost that devotional aspect, that commitment aspect that truly the Age of Pisces would have had, that we are letting go in the Age of Aquarius, that we need to find a home again with in the Age of Aquarius. And devotion is something that is truly even more sacred, I would say, today than even in the Age of Pisces, because when the collective society is...
They knew in the Age of Pisces. It was like, that's how we got to the information. We had to devote ourselves. Now we have the information, but we lost the devotion.
Yeah.
We need to bring that back, because without devotion, the information, it's not as powerful. It's not as magical. It doesn't have that behind it. Working your ass off for 10 years to get one meditation, the amount of reverence and gratitude and the amount of commitment and devotion you would have to that one meditation is unparalleled. Most people on this, like 99.99% of people on this planet, do not know that. They do not know that. And now go online. Oh, what meditation am I going to do today? I'll do one of fucking 500,000 meditations on my meditation app on, that's going to talk me to sleep. It's like, we do not know devotion. And that will be the downfall of civilization if we do not learn it. And we're learning it because more organizations are coming up, more communities are being built around this idea of devotion, because without it, we're lost.
Wouldn't you say there's a sense of suffering involved with the idea of devotion, though? Because
100%.
Because exactly what you're saying is everything is easy in today's society. Everything is, as soon as you want food, you order it on Uber Eats, and you get it immediately.
Tonight, let's go.
Right, and it's like
Uber Eats.
Back then they wouldn't. People looked at meat, for example, as something that was extremely sacred. That the husband would have had to have gone out, slaughtered the family pig. It would have been a very emotional, traumatic experience. Now we go to the grocery store, pick it up, and everything has lost its inherent meaning in this age. And we continually are just looking for just a little bit of a dopamine hit, a serotonin hit, an oxytocin hit, not realizing that it's when we suffer that those things become much more sacred. When you go for a long period of time without something, it's that much better. It's that much more sacred. It's that much more worthy of devotion in itself.
Exactly. And devotion is what unlocks the mysteries, because devotion says, I don't understand it, but I'm committing to it because something feels good about it. Something is telling me, something intuitively is nudging me to go this way. And so I'm going to devote myself to it. And it's like, when you have that level of commitment, when you can overcome the temptation to look at other things and go in other directions, you can commit to this. We have collectively, there's a fear of commitment in all areas. We want to do a bajillion things. No one wants to master anything anymore. No one wants to study for 5-10 years on something. Like to even call yourself an astrologer back in the day, 10 years minimum. And that's as an apprentice. That's as an apprentice to a master astrologer. And then you could even call yourself an astrologer. And even then, you would still be really a student of astrology until another about 10 years of serving customers and serving clients. And then you could call yourself an astrologer and, make money from it and do that. Now, watch 5 videos, buy a $30, $90 course. And in less than 30 days, you're an astrologer. And you can charge money for that. You can put the label on. You can call yourself an astrologer, an astrologist. You can call yourself whatever the fuck you want. And we've lost that devotion.
And there's a danger to it. And there's a danger to that. It's a massive danger of spreading terrible information that can be dangerous.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Because without the level of devotion, you naturally lose the big picture. You lose the big picture. And if you don't have the big picture, especially in a field like astrology, but really in any field, you miss out on the meat and potatoes. You miss out on the real grit of what the mysteries of whatever field craft you're in. You lose it because it's not about the numbers. It's not about the cookie cutter concepts. Like astrology is not about the signs and the planets and the memorize. It's not about memorization. It's not about degrees. It's not about really any of that. Astrology is, can you speak the language and can you translate what the cosmos is trying to tell us? And the cosmos is reflecting what's going on up here, and the astrologer is the universal translator for these patterns of energy. And so it's not about that's why I have a problem with people that are, call themselves an astrologer, but everything is not in their own words. Everything is just vomiting what other people are saying, or everything is so base level that these people have not truly sat there and thought about these archetypes for long enough
Yeah.
Because one, how can you in 1 year? How can you in 3 months? How can you in 30 days?
I
It's
still
impossible.
I feel that way every day after studying for several years now, you know? It's like I feel like, wow, I've just now put my foot in the door. I've just now began, but I've given hundreds of readings, and I feel great about those readings because I know that I've been a channel for them, but I know that those readings to me in essence mean nothing because I know that my real mastery has not even begun yet. Right, because there is a devotion to it, and I learn that every day, and I'm sure you do as well. And I'm sure that you have that calling towards astrology that it almost it puts a blinder on you towards everything else. Where it's like astrology and studying the archetypes. It's like when I try to do anything else, those subjects outside of astrology tend to kind of fall away. They're not as interesting as something that I am devoted to. Um,
Yeah, I think it's like, for me, like when you see it, you see it and you can't unsee it.
yeah, yeah.
It's always there. It's always going to be there. It can never not be there. It's going to be there no matter what. You know what I'm saying? Like once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's the thing about these. That's a level of devotion. Like you used to have to go through 22 plus 22, maybe even 30 years of mystery schools. Just to get like literally crack in the door of the knowledge. Yes, you were highly trained initiates by then, but you did so in the proper fashion. So of course, within that span of time, you could be a master, of course. But even then, you're not really compared to the true masters of around that era. Nowadays, like I said, you study for something for 30, 60 days and you can be an expert. And there's lots of fields, by the way, that you literally can be an expert in like 90 days of like,
Yeah.
hardcore studying, watching hours and hours and hours of videos and, practicing and, trying it out and getting, like you can start an online business in 90 days and be very successful. You can learn a new skill in 90 days and be very successful. There's lots of things that you can do in short spans of time. That's one of the blessings of the Age of Aquarius is we have got so much information. It can be, right away, boom, as like what information you like. For me, I mean, and you probably too.
Yeah.
When you start a business, you're putting on 25 hats. I have to learn how to market. I have to learn how to copyright. I have to learn how to speak. I have to learn how to present on video. I have to learn how to do social media. I have to learn hashtags. I have to learn analytics. I have to learn ads. You have to learn all of it. You have to learn back end, front end, user experience. You have to learn
it all comes back to the individual. Like everything comes to the individual at some point. And that's where the mental health crisis of the Age of Aquarius really starts to
so much overwhelm.
It's so much overwhelm. Yeah, it's like all the religions come to you, all of the news of the world comes to you. And before I lose this train of thought, I thought it was interesting to think about how Jesus Christ in the Bible would have taken talking to preachers of the day. When we were talking about these people who were sitting there preaching in front of these giant crowds of people, right, in the peak of the Age of Pisces, preaching messages of like probably what would be considered anti-Christian, like preaching messages of give me all the wealth and give this. And then you have someone like Jesus who comes around saying like, give away all your money, be a disciple, like heal the world, be, like basically live like a homeless guy and preach these messages of really connecting from the soul self. And it's interesting how the true nature of that Pisces spirit is that that selflessness that we don't really see so much in the Age of Aquarius. We really see now the individual being highlighted in that new age sense.
Exactly. And on that note, to kind of build on that, I've noticed that. Actually, I'm about to make a video on it tomorrow. But I've noticed that there's a lot of fucking clowns out there right now. A lot of clowns that are. This is that BS that the people are bringing over from the Age of Pisces that it cannot fly in this age of information because everyone gets exposed. Everyone always will eventually get exposed. If you're not living from authenticity, if you're not living out of truth, you will get exposed. And now you can get exposed for shit you didn't even do, and people take it as fact. So that's a whole other story.
Do you have a specific example of what kind of clownery that you've been seeing? Like, is it people that are bringing like this boundless spiritual sense without any found boundaries?
Yeah. Like as someone who is very focused on embodiment, like as much as I possibly can. If it's not embodied, I don't consider myself as knowing it. I don't consider myself as someone who even can preach about it, because I'm not embodying it. So who the hell am I to say, this is what you should do, or this is, look at, it's dumb. It doesn't make any sense to me. Now I can see the temptation in it, because like I said, you can learn something in a few minutes and then all of a sudden you're an expert and you become the authority and people start to give you that power, very, very power influence and all that stuff. But I mean, and a couple examples are like, I see a lot of, for example, men in the spiritual community, posing as these fucking spiritual namaste, sending you love, eye gazing, the whole shebang, let me just send you some love right now.
Yeah.
Let me just send you, and then you look at them and they're fucking soulless. Like they're empty, and it's just this fucking, it's just this show. It's this, you're pulling, I in my mastermind group last night, I was doing a lecture on the magician, and in out of the 4 masculine archetypes, king, warrior, magician, lover. Yeah. And the magician, one of the magicians, one of the inner child archetypes of the magician, and the reason I say this is Pisces is connected to the magician. One of the the wounded inner child on the active side is the trickster.
Yeah.
Right. The know-it-all trickster. And I see so many people in this community that are both embodying that, the active pole of the magician, and also the active pole of the wounded inner child of the lover, which is the addicted lover.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
The mama's boy.
And I read that in Alice Bailey's book as well, when she was talking about Gemini. She talked about how Gemini has this trait of being hooked on information and knowledge to the point where it's like we get lost on the path of Gemini when we are looking to these gurus, being like, give me the next answer, give me the next information, the next knowledge, and it's like, it's not about information or knowledge. It's about wisdom and knowing, coming back to the Piscean self and being like, I get that there's enough information to satisfy me for lifetimes, but what information actually really matters? What information actually is relevant? Is it that, I need to be love and light, or is it that maybe sometimes like you say, I need to embody the shadow sides of things. I need to learn how to discern between, if I should be love and light, or if I should actually tell people to fuck off sometimes, and, to embody masculine traits and to be a man and to,
Exactly.
to stand up. And like, not all, we've lost a lot of masculinity in this culture. And I see that in those kind of people that you're talking about. Masculinity is not just pure acceptance and pure love and all this. It's actually setting boundaries and being able to say no, and being able to stand up and not just accept everybody for who they are, but to judge them, to be critical. Yeah.
And I just see a lot of these guys getting exposed, and whether it's now, and I've seen guys that have gotten exposed in the past and now presently, and probably guaranteed in the future, of where people just feel like these guys are preaching, this whole masculinity, conscious man, blah, 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 blah. And then they come out to be a fucking rapist or some like sexual abuser, and some fucked up shit like that comes out.
There's a lot of bad information there's a lot of bad information on conscious masculinity, though. That
totally, there's a lot of bullshit. And that's the problem is it's experiential. It's experiential. There is, you are either embodying it or you're not.
Well, that would be part of the king energy, right? Of the 4 of those archetypes. In fact, the magician almost always is the trickster. Even whenever it's in its highest power, like our thoughts, we shouldn't always necessarily listen to our thoughts. Sometimes being an embodiment is to be the king, to say like the king tells the magician what to do, not the other way around.
Exactly. Well, and the magician doesn't have the will to act, and that's a very essential problem. The magician, he's a visionary, but he can't act. That's a warrior. Yep. So, and that could be another fucking 4-hour lecture, but but what I was going to say is, like, all these people are getting exposed, and it just goes to show that, without integrity, without embodiment, it means nothing. Your words mean nothing in this age, because there's so much information out there already. Your words mean jack shit. All that matters is your energy. All that matters is your embodiment, because people can see that. Like, and if they can't see that, and then they're distracted by smoke and mirrors, and those people are ideal customers, But the legit people, like, when you when you are embodying your truth, and you've gone through, deep inner work, and you know what that looks like, and you know what processing emotions is all about, and awareness and all. When you've gone through that, and you're not sucked into these non-realities, and you're not, you're not embodying something different than what you're preaching, what you're trying to put out there. You're not trying to be the big wizard behind the, the little man behind the curtain. Because that's kind of what happens. The magician becomes a chauvinist.
Yeah.
If you're anybody who's legit, anybody who's anchored and grounded in their experience, and is embodiment, it is an embodiment of truth, is an embodiment of true, expression of soul. The difference energetically, intuitively, feeling wise. You can feel the difference of someone who's legit, doing the legit work, doing the deep work, really being a fucking man, really, like, I mean, or a woman, whatever. But like, really, because obviously we're talking about the men, but really we can see the authenticity in it. Like, you can feel it. You can really, really feel it. Like, when
I would
look
say the opposite is true with women. When women are being very, very feminine, and you can feel the difference between a very feminine woman and a more masculine woman. Like, there's an authenticity behind that. And femininity is not an easy thing to embody, nor is masculinity for men, right? But when you do embody that, you've done the work, because this age has everything backwards, and it's so natural to be in those backwards energies of the anima and the animus. And you're right, that would be the Piscean sense. It's almost like what namaste means, right? Like, my soul recognizes your soul. There is an energetic exchange between higher consciousness, which is beyond just the matrix. When we're, talking about masculinity, we're not talking about per se just a set of actions, not just the warrior, or not just a set of thoughts, not just a set of principles. It's not just the magician or even the lover. It's not just like how deeply you can love your woman or man or any of those things. It's about all of those things in unison and embodiment. And that's something you said before this podcast that really stood out, is that the Age of Aquarius is the age of embodiment.
Yeah, 100%. And because the information is there, which means that nature will eventually always expose the fake news, the lack of truth, the lack of embodiment, because you cannot keep up the act. In the Age of Pisces, you could keep up the act. You could be doing all sorts of things behind the curtain, and no one would dare look behind it. But Age of Aquarius, we got X-ray vision. That's called the internet and information. There's fucking cameras everywhere. Everyone's always recording shit. There's no getting around that anymore. Which means that eventually these people will be exposed, and they always do. And the higher, they are on their little pedestal, the harder they will fall. And that's exactly what we're seeing now. Is the veil is being lifted, which means that we only have room for truth. We only have room for embodiment. We only have room for authenticity and devotion. Because unless you're on that train, you're not going anywhere. It's like lack of embodiment. You're in the flight simulator, right? you're trying to I gotta fly to Paris. I gotta do this. I'm gonna go fly to Paris. Versus you learn how to fly and you go fly a real fucking plane.
That's a great analogy too for Pisces energy.
Because you're just treading water. You're in the little simulator. You're just treading. You're not going anywhere. You can take a video in there and it could look like I'm in the plane, guys. Look at me. I'm in the
people, a green screen behind you, and
people can go in, pay like $1,000 and take pictures in private jets and shit, right? People so
let me ask you, Will, when it comes, I want to bring this full circle, because I know we're getting pretty deep into this podcast, but when it comes down to the fact that the Pisces is the 12th zodiac sign, how do we actually begin to see each individual one of the zodiacs through Pisces? Because obviously it's like all is one, spirit is all one, we all embody spirit, but can we see Aries in Pisces? Can we see Taurus in Pisces? Can we see Gemini in Pisces? Is that how it works, or is it just that it's the tail of the dragon?
Yeah, so I mean, you can if we. I don't think there's much point in doing it. The only reason is because the you think about water, right? The concept of water, the divine waters, the waters which give us life, literally, the blood, and the sperm, which create the egg. These are our divine waters of our mother and father coming together. And then we are held in the fluid, the amniotic fluid. We're held in the fluid of the womb.
The cosmic egg.
The cosmic egg, which creates further water. There is liquid, there is water. And we are held in that. And that's the incubation process of birthing. And it's the, Pisces is the rebirth.
Yeah.
It's like we get in that void and then we come back in. Our head comes out first and we're in the world, and then we start the journey. So like I said at the beginning, we start in the water.
Yeah.
We end in the water. Water is what created us. Water is what we are, and we will never not be the water.
So it's more or less a recognition of start to finish, rather than it's like, because when you're in Gemini, you're in Gemini, and when you're in Cancer, you're in Cancer or whatever. But when you start and you finish in Pisces, and that's I learned recently that religions that have the divine waters that come before creation, those are known as ex nihilo religions. And it's very interesting how many of the religions across the world have a divine waters come before anything else. And that in itself would be Pisces, which to me kind of represents that Pisces is beyond this universe. And we experience it through this universe, through Virgo, through the form.
Exactly.
And I think that's what we're really going to start to see in this Pisces season is a reminder that this matrix, this form, is a way to experience spirituality, a way to experience the divine waters. And I'm already feeling it with some of these transits that are already hitting us. And I've just got to say, before we even get into the transits, I'm so thankful that we're now moving out of Aquarius season. That was a wild season with all the 6 or so planets. Mercury retrograde going through all there. We had Mars and Venus squaring each other. There's a lot going on in this last season. And I'm excited for the Pisces season transits because we're finally getting to see a little bit of a doorway, an opening, something that's a little bit more fluid per se than what we've been seeing with this just completely fixed nature of astrology that's been going on.
Exactly. And it's only until we can see it for what it is. And that's why Pisces kind of is the full circle, right, of the zodiac, is like until we can see how it gets interwoven over each other, only then can we really not only understand Pisces, but we can understand every other sign. Is when we can see because to me, Pisces is the expression of divine. That's what divine waters are. Our blood is the in a sense the fuel. It's the physical essence of our soul, our blood, right? Our soul, our consciousness runs through and energizes and gives life to our blood. Without consciousness, our blood will eventually stop producing itself. It will stop being filled with life. All the blood cells will die. The heart will stop. Blah 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 blah. Yeah. So the soul is what animates and gives life to the blood. So that is our life force. Pisces is running through us all. Because that life force, that life force energy is running through us all, and that's the connection there. So it's not about like, okay, how can we find the similarities between these signs and Pisces? Like, if there's similarities between all the zodiac signs, and you can find correlations, it doesn't really matter. What matters is, where are we at along the journey, and can we actually see the divine nature, the true divinity of all the signs, and if we can, then we sing Pisces, because Pisces is the divine waters. It's the Christ light.
And that's as well what I love about the symbology of Pisces ruling the feet as well. Not only are the feet what we use to literally swim through the waters, but every single organ in the body is connected to the feet through reflexology. It's connected through the circular system. It's amazing how, we can say like, yeah, Gemini's the hands, but the hands connect to the feet, right? And Taurus, the same thing is true with our neck going down to our feet. So I see what you mean, and I think that was a great example. And it also reminds me too of the idea that our soul is not in our body, but our body is within our soul. And that's how we sort of experience form.
Exactly.
I see you pulling up the charts there. Are you ready to get into the transits?
Yeah, let's do
All
it.
right, let's do it.
Let me just share my screen here. Okay. Holy, lots of colors going on here. I want to make sure I got the right color.
Are you drawing on it?
Yeah. All of this, my app updated for my my drawing. Let me just share this.
Yeah, go ahead and throw that up there. You're gonna pull up Saturn square Uranus first.
Well, I think the first chart is Mercury direct. Or actually, no, I'll pull up that one first.
The sun's entering Pisces.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's look at the first day. And for you guys who don't know, if you want to get a good idea of what the astrology of any given season is like, always check out when the sun is at 0 degrees, 0 arc minutes, when it just ingresses into that sign, and look at the rest of the planets, how they're aspecting them. And that should give a little bit of a message towards what this season is bringing.
Exactly. And if you're not already, make sure you smash that subscribe button, smash that like button, and leave some beautiful comments for us to see below. We're sponsored here by Heineken 00. We don't drink alcohol in this house, but I figured we got to get a little bit of Pisces, so I drink some beer on the show.
Oh, you cracked it open. Yeah.
Cracked it open. 00 though. Not trying to close up the crown chakra. You know what I'm saying? So anyway,
yeah, you guys subscribe. We do this every month. We'll put out some great content as well.
Yes, and there's lots of cool stuff coming as well. So stay tuned for all that fun stuff. Okay, I mean, yeah, let's just talk about this square going on here. We got
Okay,
Saturn.
so this is before Pisces season starts. This is February 17th. This has already happened. This is
like the day, the day before Pisces. So
yeah, when the sun is at 29 degrees, pretty important, the anaretic degree of the sun.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, we got Uranus, which, right? Uranus is shock.
Synchronicity. I mean, that's a long word though.
Let's just do sync. Also, Uranus is, it's divine order.
Yeah.
And divine order doesn't look too organized. So it can often look very like, whoa, what's going on here? Like it's like that. Uranus brings in the seventh ray, and the seventh ray of creation is about ceremonial magic and order. And what that means is the layers of reality. We can't always see all the layers.
Yeah.
We don't know all the factors that's kind of going behind everything, right? So because of that, we tend to judge things. We tend to judge things based off of how they appear. But how things appear are hardly ever how they actually are. And when we can understand that, we can better understand not only ourselves but Uranus and the Uranian energy. So then we have Saturn. Okay, Saturn is restriction, compression.
Yep, that's a good word for that. Discipline,
structure.
Oh, we're going into the details on this one. This is important though, guys, because Uranus squares Saturn for the majority of this season. These are semi-outer planets. Uranus is an outer planet. Saturn's kind of on the brink. These they move slowly. So this is a theme that's going to last for pretty much the entire season.
Exactly. So when we have Uranus and Saturn in a square, I mean, one of this, you think, okay, Saturn in Aquarius. Saturn is also gov,
yep.
Authority. So, okay, we have all this restriction mixed in with shocking restrictions. Okay, so I mean, to me, that can be legislation that's pushed, like shocking legislation. Don't expect those stimulus checks. Don't expect those stimulus checks in the States anytime soon. These are like, we can definitely expect some kind of shocking situations to unfold specifically within the realm of government, within the realm of authority. How that plays out on more of a kind of metaphysical level is we're given an opportunity to be exposed to our weaknesses. We're given an opportunity to be exposed to the areas in which we are, in a sense, compressing ourselves. Where are we feeling dragged down, bogged down? And a lot of times these situations may seemingly happen spontaneously, but the truth is this stuff has been building up for a long time. Meaning that if you have been victimizing yourself for however long, it's not like overnight, after one day of victimizing yourself, you're going to have all these shitty results and manifestations in your life. It's going to be over time. But one day there will be a manifestation of that, and you're going to experience the downside of that and kind of wonder what the hell's going on. So what we're seeing with this square is something that's been building up for quite a while. And that is, I mean, specifically with the moon in Taurus too, this will have a lot to do with money, wealth. So definitely, I mean, expect this is a pretty bullish indicator. A bearish indicator for the financial markets. So,
and we have been seeing that as well.
That. Yeah, we saw
crashing.
Pretty much right after this transit started, like really hitting, which was a few days ago. We saw it's been bullish, and now it's pretty going into the bearish. Now, depends on what industry and whatever, but Uranus specifically ruling tech, crypto, Saturn ruling government, structure, markets, authority. So again, we can also see this with this combination. I would also predict that we can definitely see more regulations. They're already trying to pass regulations for crypto, for things of what you can and cannot do to try and manipulate the market further. Fed, the Federal Reserve has just basically signed a thing saying they no longer need to show you how much money they're printing, which is pretty interesting. So there's lots of kind of manifestations of this. But in general, this is going to kind of make us feel probably a little bit bogged down and probably a little bit kind of disoriented and definitely tired, like definitely drained.
Would you say that with this energy, since Saturn's authority and then Uranus represents crypto, would you say that we should be careful listening to certain figures? Like, let's say Elon Musk buys into Bitcoin and he says it's going up and up and up and up, it's like, and all these people are like convincing us that square is something to really be mindful of, right? When it comes down to those voices. Yeah.
Well, for me, squares are always about, we have to make, there are changes that will be made, whether we like it or not. A change has to happen. Some sort of action needs to take place. Some sort of action is taking place. These are what squares indicate. So with this, I can kind of see this as government trying to push less of that freedom, which we would normally see in Uranus, but Uranus is in Taurus. So there's kind of a grounding of that freedom and less of it.
And I'd also like to throw in this as well. Like it's cool to look at the collective astrology, but on the individual level, this is an importance on keeping your focus on your vision, right? Taurus, keeping your focus on your vision through self-discipline, power of habit. Keep yourself on your practices. Don't allow yourself to kind of be distracted by all these little things. Like I guess you mentioned this a minute ago with the victimization of things building up. But this is a great time to double down on those practices. Get back into meditation, get back into embodying your own practices with this Taurus energy.
Exactly. And then we have Mercury stations direct on the 20th. We just passed that.
I love that degree as well of Mercury.
11.
Just a little numerology in there.
So Mercury stations direct 1101, by the way. 111.
And we're still in the shadow of that right now, currently. I mean, maybe by the time you're listening to this, maybe we're out of it, but we're February 24th. Still feeling this. Only 4 days ago. Yeah.
And I mean, during this time, like this is where we have pretty much that exact square of Mars and Venus.
Yep.
I mean, like the kind of beginning of Pisces season has definitely been pretty challenging in regards to, drive and desire and vision and how those all line up, and especially in relationships. Like if these relationships that you're cultivating are no longer serving the deep vision, the deep vision. And if we don't have the drive or the energy or the willpower to kind of bring that into being, we're not going to have that good of a time. We're going to create more suffering for ourselves, And I think Brent and I were talking about this before with Mars and Taurus. Mars and Taurus is slow. It's kind of like I'll do it tomorrow.
It's like if you want to climb the wall, Taurus is going to sit there and spend 30 minutes looking at the wall.
Yeah.
Going to turn around, spend another 30 minutes looking at the wall, and then eventually
30 minutes getting the tools out to kind of measure, and making sure the outfit is looking good, looking on fleek, you know what I'm saying? And then once you look good and it's all good, and then all the things, it's like, okay, now it's fucking pointless to even do it. So also
Taurus is going to sit there and stress and say, I know I have to get over the wall. I'm going to do it. It's just going to take some time. It's just going to take some time. Preparation, and there is pressure.
We need pressure with Mars and Taurus. If we don't have pressure, it'll never get done.
We'll just sit there and sit on the couch and eat potato chips and watch Netflix and play Call of Duty and, get drunk, because Taurus also has a little bit of alcoholism when it comes to 23 degrees. We have a fixed star Algol at 26 degrees. There you go. Well,
cheers to that.
Yeah, for those of you who didn't know, just a little fun astrology tip. At 26 degrees Taurus, there's a fixed star that is representative of alcoholism. So we got to be careful of those vices that may stop us from progress. When we want to slow down, we've got to be careful with the vices in our life, right? There's a wall that you have to climb over. Get a ladder.
Exactly.
The spirits, yes. And this is why I'm excited for Pisces season, because in Pisces season, we're finally moving out of the fixed energy of Mars, the fixed energy of Venus, the fixed energy of the sun, finally moving out of here. Mercury is going to move out of here. So we're going to get a lot of pulling in different directions, but at least we're moving, right? At least we're oscillating, AC current moving. So,
exactly.
Do you have the chart at 00 sun entering Pisces?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, don't worry about it. We'll.
But one thing I just want to say with Mercury, as Mercury comes into the meeting with Jupiter, towards more of the mid to end of the season, I think it's about early March that this just happened. I was just writing tweets about it, scheduling out some tweets about it. But
when early March, when what?
When Mercury conjuncts Jupiter. But this is, and then Mercury will be leaving shadow during this point too. And this is really, I would say, this is the energy for really building the vision out. Like utilize this Jupiter in Aquarius with Mercury in Aquarius there. Mercury's out of the rays of Saturn, and into now the rays of, after being pinned, between already passing that and coming back and getting real close to Saturn, and then going back to another conjunction with Jupiter, which is
it's on March 4th, March 3rd, March 4th. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's this is like a Pisces season is the time when we birth the vision. Pisces season is the time when we really can pay attention to just bringing in and heightening and developing and enhancing the vision as best as we possibly can. Because when we can do that, everything else flows. And that's what Pisces is. You can't forget the divine waters. You can't forget to water yourself. You can't forget to, you can't forget God,
Well, in fact, that is part of the problem with Pisces, is that when you do forget God, you are running away. And here's the thing, man, like spirit is so hard to really grasp. Like imagine taking in the suffering of the entire universe, right? Like that's what it feels like to be in touch with our soul, is to be like, it's sort of transcend beyond this material universe. And the only way to transcend beyond the material universe is to go through it, not around it, not to escape around it, but to go through it. And if you did want to pull up that Pisces chart, I did message it to you in iMessage.
Well, I mean, it's not going to be that much different from when we look at Saturn square Uranus, because it's like one degree away. So.
Okay. No problem.
Keep going.
So where are we at? February 25th?
Venus enters Pisces.
Exalted,
That's
huh?
tomorrow for those watching this live and or within the next one day. Yeah, exalted. It's nice. It's very
nice.
Venus in Aquarius that's a hard placement for Venus.
Yeah,
because Venus wants to be in that. She wants to be in the loving energy, not very fixed masculine type of. That's the last place that Venus wants to be. So Venus wants to express herself, and Venus in exalted in Pisces. It's big themes of expression.
Yeah,
right.
One of the things I love about Venus in Pisces is just how romantic the world becomes, just how personified nature becomes. We start writing poems to nature, saying how alive the trees feel, how beautiful the flowers are, how the waters are, the clouds are so alive today, right? We start personifying nature, and we do that with our partners as well. And sometimes that can be iffy if we personify them in a very Disney romance syndrome, right? We have to be, it's fun to be expressive, but we have to also kind of carry a little bit of that Venus and Aquarius energy with us of the that kind of stronger realization, the discernment. Yeah, the shadow would be disillusion, and the expression. I love that expression, magic, art, romance, love, and spirit. All of those things are incredibly encouraged, but when they're seen outside of the rose-colored glasses, right? And to see them outside of the rose-colored glasses means you have to do your work on your individual self, which is why I love that Venus comes right out of Aquarius, because I feel like a lot of us have been doing that inner work. And if you haven't been doing that inner work, then it's going to manifest more of the shadow side.
Exactly. And then the thing with this season is we got to really use the vision, use the love, use the inspiration, use the art, the romance, the spirit, magic, use it all, but don't lose touch with reality.
Yep.
Don't get sucked into non-reality. Don't get sucked into fantasy, because when you get sucked into fantasy, what you're really saying, the energy that you're giving out is that my reality sucks and it's better to live in a non-reality. And when you make your world worse off than your fantasy, you lose touch with reality, and ultimately you are cursing yourself. That's really what's going on. You're cursing yourself to live a less than desirable life. We want to live a life where we our greatest fantasy, it comes true every day, and that is possible.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand. That is possible, and in fact, it's never really not been possible.
I believe is the mantra here, right? I believe that it's possible, and that's an important thing to really to master. But what do you have here?
Well,
Mars trine
Pluto.
Mars trine Pluto. Do you have an individual chart for that, or is that you're just going to read it on here?
No, I'll just read it on that thing because it was the day before or whatever. So
I think that's a really interesting day, because that's a lot of high energy as we're into this Pisces season. Venus entering with Mars trine Pluto. It's actually to me a really great way to approach Pluto is with a trine, because at least you're going there with the mentality that finally, this whole time Mars has been in Taurus. It's been a detriment. It's been low energy. But when it trines to Pluto like this, that trine actually stimulates it and says, it almost puts a fire under your ass and says, get in the gym, get looking good. Mars is getting to a late degree. By the way, this is that fixed star degree that I was talking about. So high energy can be matched with, escapism, right? So be careful with alcohol this day. But also, work on really setting some strong goals for yourself.
Don't be drinking the bottles, people. Don't want to be drinking the bottles.
It's going to be tempting, because guess what? There's Pluto. Pluto is the underworld. Pluto is
Venus in Pisces.
Venus in Pisces.
Overindulge. Yeah. Same with Neptune in Pisces. There's a lot of overindulgent energy.
It's going to be so interesting to see the Sun and Venus eventually having a conversation with Neptune later in the season.
Oh, yeah. That's a nice new moon coming up.
Yep.
All right.
What else we got?
I mean, yeah, just to sum up though, Venus entering Pisces, this is going to be a big shift from this kind of realist mindset to the more of the dreamer mindset, where things that maybe didn't seem as possible are going to start to seem more possible. But again, you have to match that with balanced realism and balanced, like you reality. And I hate the term realism because I don't believe in realism, especially as a Pisces rising. But it what I'm trying to say with that is that it's like you need to dream, you need to have a vision, you need to be a visionary, but you need to be grounded in reality. You can't be ungrounded, because if it's ungrounded, then it's just a fantasy. It's not reality. And you want to bring your visions and make them true. You don't want your visions to be fantasies. You want your visions to be reality.
Yeah. Can you go back to that chart right before then?
Venus and Pisces.
Yeah, just for a second. I just want to mention that the day before, whenever Mars is trine Pluto and Venus is at 29 degrees, that is one of the dreams that you're talking about, Will. That is so potent for the ideas around how you can envision yourself helping your society, helping your collectives, helping your groups, helping those people make the kind of dreams that you have not as self-centered as you would maybe first envision them to be. Wait, what? Say that again.
AKA today.
Yeah,
it's the 24th.
Okay, well, fair. So imagine, how can you help your society? How can you help the people around you? The best thing that you can do entering this Piscean season is to get out of the self, to get outside of the boundaries, outside of what is known, and get into the unknown and say, where can I help others? Right? Because being of service to self is going to be something that is ultimately self-defeating. Whereas the Venus in Pisces wants to be of service to everything around it. It's the service to nature, service to the love, service to the magic, right?
Exactly. And so, devotion.
Yeah. All right. We can go back.
Talk about this upcoming full moon happening on Friday as we're recording this.
Yep.
The 27th. Or sorry, Saturday, early in the morning, 3 in the morning. AKA Friday, Saturday, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
I'm not getting any sleep that night. I can already feel it.
Okay. Full moon.
8 degrees in Virgo.
8 degrees. 8 degrees. 8 degrees. 8 degrees.
Check your mutable placements at 8 degrees.
Haha, my ascendant. Let's go. Ascendant and descendant. So okay, full moon. I mean, here's the thing. With Virgo and Pisces and the kind of polarity we got going on. We'll do Pisces over here and Virgo here. Okay. Pisces, this is not reason. This is not like Virgo is data.
Analytics.
Reason, analytics.
Anal. It's tangible. You can add it up. It's calculable. Yes. In fact, when it's not calculable, it doesn't make sense. In fact, there can be a little bit of anxiety that comes when something doesn't make sense, to the point where we want to make it make sense. So we get more data, we get more analysis, info. All right. But in Pisces,
is more macrocosmically, which is the vision, right? It's spirit.
Mm-hmm. Spirit's a great word for Pisces.
It's
fluid.
That's
flow though, but yeah.
It's fluid, and there's kind of I mean, classic Pisces, and as a Pisces rising, there's an element of disorganization there.
Yeah. And you know what I love about
before with the Uranus and that kind of divine order. Divine order and Neptune is kind of the same way. Divine order is, it looks like chaos. It looks like chaos. Like we look at the world and we're like, oh, is there any, intelligence weaving this all together? It's like, well, there is, but it's just about seeing that. It's just about being able to see that. Because if you can't see it, like most can't, more and more people are, but
you can't work with it.
You can't work with it, and it won't ever make sense.
Yeah.
Just because it's chaotic and it's disorganized doesn't mean that it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And that's what Pisces teaches us, is we don't always need complete organization and analytics. And this is like, straight lines.
You can almost say something along the lines of, did Jesus actually die and get resurrected in the tomb? I need to know the facts. Did it literally happen? Or you could say, is that a figurative story that has symbolic meaning to it? There's a lot of symbols with Pisces, and in the symbols have just as much value as if it literally happened. figurative and literal. There's this line that Virgo and Pisces draws. The figurative stuff, it's like fantasy. It's nonfiction. Or sorry, it's fiction. Whereas Virgo is much more about fiction. I mean, I keep getting this backwards. Nonfiction.
Exactly.
And
It's like
when you
fact
have that
versus myth.
fact versus myth, yet they both have validity.
Exactly. And we don't tell myths because they're fake.
Yeah.
We don't tell myths because they didn't happen. We tell myths because they convey a message. And they convey a message that is often way better conveyed through myth than fact. And the reason being is because with myth, you allow for the imagination to come in and take pieces that would otherwise not really make any sense, right? Because if we just looked strictly at the facts of the data, you can't. There's a limit because reality is rigid. Reality is rigid, and thus it has its own limitations, right? Versus spirit is eternal. Yeah. There's no limitations there. There's limitlessness, and because of that, we got to be really, really mindful of this kind of yin yang pull, push pull that we'll really feel in this this full moon. This is a very feminine full moon.
Yeah.
Right. This is a very feminine full moon, and we got Mars in Taurus, Uranus in Taurus, Venus, Sun, Neptune in Pisces, Moon in Virgo. Right. These are all feminine signs. Right. And yeah, we got Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto in Capricorn. These are Earth's feminine is earth and water. So there's a lot of kind of how can we utilize the intuitive discernment within our own lives to get clearer on what needs to take place, on what needs to happen. Right? It's like we need to access the divine inspiration. Right? We need to take this divine mysticism and we need to bring it into the real world.
Yep.
And that's the balance between Pisces and Virgo. Pisces says, I have this dream. And Virgo says, well, how can we make it happen? It's like, I have this vision. I have this big vision. And Virgo says, okay, well, here's what needs to happen in order for that vision to be created. Like Virgos aren't necessarily visionaries. They can see the pieces. They can put the pieces together. They're organizers. They're organizers of information, right? They're ruled by Mercury versus Jupiter over here, Pisces, right? So.
And those two are conjuncting in this full moon.
Which?
Mercury and Jupiter.
Yeah, Mercury, Jupiter. Yeah, coming into that conjunction. So yeah, exactly. And that's actually an interesting place because they're both in Aquarius, with Jupiter trining the north node and sextiling the south node. So we kind of have this idea of like we need to, like, this whole season, Pisces season is always about birthing the greater vision for ourselves, right? It's right before astrological new year. It's like we're getting into the time where we're ready to get going. Aries season usually when we're like, go, 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 go. We start unless you are, what? Maybe if you're a Taurus rising, you got Aries in the 12th house. That's the only, I think, who maybe won't have such a go Aries season. I think everybody else usually has a pretty, happy, or maybe 4th house Aries too. I could see that.
Yeah. There's a couple of them for sure.
Yeah. But in general, Aries season for the collective is a go period. Springtime, things are being birthed, projects are starting, so on and so forth. So, but we can't take action on anything until we have a vision of where we want to be going. Right. And that's what Pisces crucial. Gives us. It gives us the divine waters that pour in, right? All this crazy, chaotic mysticism, but that gets bridged into reality. And we balance with Jupiter and Mercury, right? We balance the expanded vision with the details of life, and that's kind of what this full moon is bringing us, right? It's just bringing us. It's like, get the vision, right? With the details. If we don't have the vision, we don't have the details. It's as simple as that. You know, if we don't have the vision, if you don't have a vision, and let's put it this way: if you just have the details and you don't have a vision, how do you know that the details are getting you to where you want to be? You don't know. You're just assuming. You're just like, this has to be the path because, you know, but you can't even answer the why. That's why the why or the vision is always the most important, because you have to birth something. That's why being connected to the divine, having that visionary aspect is the most important. Okay, so I mean that's the full moon. One thing I will just say, just to quickly digress, and then we'll move on, is this full moon really set the intention, really set the intention to get really practical with your vision. And I know, and I could say this as a Pisces rising, that's kind of counterintuitive. You know, when you have practicality, when you mix your great devotional vision with practicality, you create it into reality. Okay, there's a fucking rhyme for you. Okay, poetic season. Your boy coming in clutch here.
Well, there's also the importance too when we talk about like a Freudian analysis of our dreams. You know, it's like, how do you know what the hell the dream even meant or what the message is telling you unless you have some kind of structure to funnel it through, some kind of understanding of what does spirit say to me? And you can reverse engineer that and say, okay, this is what I've got to work with. Now, where do I want to take this new knowledge and how do I want to apply it? Right. Like that. We haven't really talked too much about that, but the dream symbol side of Pisces is very crucial to understand as well, because sometimes we want to forge pathways for ourselves that aren't actually meant for us in spirit. And those aren't going to be as powerful as the ones where we're actually like in what we would say is alignment with our life path or what really truly resonates with spirit. So yeah, I agree with you, Will. That's great advice for this full moon, is to really get clear on where you're going, the why, and then put the how to it.
Exactly. The details will always work themselves out. You know,
Yep.
You don't got to worry about that. Okay, Mars enters Gemini. I mean, you could talk a little bit about this, Brent, but
okay.
And then we'll get into the new moon and kind of wrap it up here.
First of all, I'm so excited that Mars is leaving Taurus. Like, I feel like we've been spoiled with Mars and Aries for 6 months in 2020. And then we get to this like just grand old peak, you know, like we've had all these elections, all these shutdowns and everything going crazy. We've all been just going at it. And then we slow so down in Taurus. And now we're getting to a point where Mars is leaving Taurus. And we're going to get back into a bit of what I would say is re-energizing. Right, we're getting to a point with putting Mars in our minds. Right, Gemini rules the mind, Mercury, and part of this is putting action to different avenues, but it's also taking the sides of ourselves which we don't necessarily always give attention to. There's a good idea behind the art of procrastination. There's a lot of times you want to procrastinate because you don't want to face something that's difficult. And that's where Gemini to me is really fascinating, because Gemini plays the devil's advocate. Gemini is like, let's ask hard questions. Let's play the other side. And in fact, sometimes the harder side is the other side. And I think this will be a good time for us to actually start to address some of those things that maybe in Mars and Taurus we're maybe avoiding. Maybe around that 26-degree mark, we were, falling into old patterns and cycles around alcohol or complacency, or just maybe sitting on the couch and watching too much Netflix, playing too many video games and things like that. Like, I think when Mars gets finally back into Gemini, we'll be able to recognize that other self, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're leaving behind that other self that maybe Taurus brought out of us. And when we start to leave behind that other self, we're entering closer to a more godly self. Now, if you think about this in the terms of living your life, you lose your mortality every day. And I don't mean you die every day, but you do. But really what I mean is every day you get older, but every day you get closer back to those waters of Pisces. And as you're moving away from your mortality, you're moving closer to your spirituality. And that's really ultimately, to me, the goal in this Pisces season with Mars and Gemini is, how can you move away from the matrix? How can you move closer to divine unity with that spiritual self, with that self that is beyond the matrix? And especially with Venus and Pisces, it's the relationship that we have with our spirit, with our other self. And so it's about recognizing how we can improve our humanness to be in more of alignment with our spiritualness, right? We have a big theme of duality here: spirit, matter, right? Mind, body, right? Spirit, human. So I think that's what we're really going to start to see. And the beginning of this year really opened us up to that kind of pathway.
Yeah, no, I feel you. And I think with Gemini too, we just have to be mindful of where our energy is being split, because a lot of times it can be, it's good. Sometimes it's good to diversify your energy and to, be able to move a little bit here, a little bit there. But in general, we want to be pinpointed. And the whole nature of Mars is one direction. The arrow's pointing one way, and that's where we're going. And with Gemini, it's kind of like there's like, well, and Venus, same thing. We get Dragonet and Sun and Neptune. So there's lots of kind of the mutable, like, kind of all over the place energy. And we got to be very, very mindful of how we're directing that. That's all I'm gonna say on that.
That's a great perspective, and yeah, you're right with that. And I would definitely say that that's why you play the devil's advocate. By the way, a lot of people play the devil's advocate because they're jealous or they just want to prove a point. That's not the point of playing the devil's advocate. The point is to actually see from the other side, not just to split yourself. Right? We split ourselves in Gemini, and that was a good point. So
exactly.
The new
moon. We got Venus conjunct Neptune, and then the sun, obviously, new moon, all in Pisces.
Right there on top of Neptune as well. We love to see it.
Yeah, 3 degrees. That's pretty big, especially for outer planets. We got to take that into consideration. I mean, okay. New moon in Pisces. This is, as like I said, we're birthing the vision. Okay, where this is adding further clarity to that vision and making sure it's in alignment with true devotion, aka we take Neptune, the waters of Neptune, right? The symbol of the waters of Neptune. Okay, streaming in to us, right? Let's say this eye symbolizes our vision. Okay.
Looks like you're drawing a sigil.
Yeah, maybe I am. Hear ye, Prince of Darkness. This broadcast is brought to you in part by Satanism. Try it. There's a 30-day free trial on now.
Right.
So no.
This is why I'll just get the rap, huh?
Yeah. Fuck that shit. We're taking down the satanic cults of this world. So we're bringing in the devotion. Neptune is devotion, right? Neptune's ultimately devotion to causes that are bigger than ourselves. Okay, we don't always know what we're devoting ourselves to, but intuitively, when it's true devotion, we're devoting ourselves to the inner teacher, to the inner guide, to the inner compass, so on and so forth. When that devotion is brought down to the vision,
now you're definitely drawing a sigil.
Yeah, Moon Ra.
Can you describe I know this feeling, but can you describe the feeling of Neptune bringing that down to your vision? What is that like to someone who never has experienced this?
To someone who's not attuned, it's subtle. It's a lot more. It's not direct. Mars is direct. Saturn's pretty direct. Jupiter can be direct. Pluto's can be very direct. Even Uranus can be direct, but in a shocking way. The Sun is direct. Mercury is usually direct. So all of these things are direct. Then we get into layers of subtleties, especially the trans-Neptunian. So Neptune, Uranus, Pluto. These are longer term energies. These are bigger energies. These are much bigger. But the subtlety of Neptune is this, that it is an inner knowing, it's an inner feeling of when things just start to click. When things start to click and you just feel this inner drive towards something. Like, have you ever just like I'll use the example of like you're going grocery shopping, right? You going in the grocery store and you see this food you've never seen before. Maybe it's a weird looking fruit, or maybe it's some vegetable, or some new product on the shelf. Okay, I'm hoping that it's healthy. When you pick it up, if it's like, oh, this looks kind of cool, this feels cool, I'm gonna try it out. I never tried this thing before. Maybe it's a weird looking dragon fruit or something like that. You're like, oh, I'm gonna try it out. I'm gonna see what it is. What is that impulse that just guided you to that? Was it your mind? You could say it was, but it's not really, because logically it doesn't make any sense. Like, sure, you could say, okay, if I run the numbers by trying new things, there's a whatever, a 42% chance that I will not like this, and a 60% chance I will like this, or whatever. Like the data, there's lots of things that you could argue and blah blah blah.
A Bayesian way of thinking, just like trying to weigh it out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's a high likelihood that I would actually might enjoy this. So it's like, oh, well, I better try that. So,
that's the most left brain thinking I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, that's like those are people with Gemini risings and Virgo rising. Yeah. But no, what drives us is an impulse beyond thought. It is an urge. It's a movement of energy. It's a shift. It's a subtle shift. And that subtle shift fuels thoughts, right? This stream is not just like we get this bzzz from God and then all of a sudden we see it, right? It's like, no, we get feelings, thoughts.
It do be like that sometimes though.
Well,
but that's when
level,
you're in, that's when you're in attunement with it. Yeah.
We get all these things,
thoughts, we get emotions and visions.
Yeah, we get that, just the inner feeling, right? And then we get these thoughts about, oh, this, like, oh, this is a weird looking dragon fruit. Okay. It's like, I wonder, the last time I had a really good fruit, oh, that felt really good. And then it's like, then you start to build that vision out of like, oh, I see myself enjoying this. I'm going to try this. It all came from here. It all came from this subtlety, right? It all came from this
I feel that way when I'm like deciding on a coffee shop to go to, or maybe I'll just start driving and I just like, I'm like, I want to go here. And then I just get pulled there. And then all of a sudden I'm having a conversation with a stranger. And all of a sudden we're becoming friends. And then all of a sudden this person is now significantly impacting my life. And then all of a sudden this person and I, it's so interesting how subtle that all can be. It all starts from a hunch, like
it's always, it is. So that's, to me, is what the subtlety of what Neptune embodies is that it's like, we get this kind of, it's like a pulse. It's a light pulse. It's like a mist. And some people don't notice it because they're moving too fast. Their mind's moving too fast. Their body's moving they're not focused on it. But the people that are still, right? If you think about it like this, someone sprays a mist at you and you're running through it, you're not gonna really feel it. It's just a mist. Someone sprays a hose, you'll fucking feel it. But if it's just a mist, you're not gonna feel it. It's just gonna feel like nothing. But if you're still, you're just sitting there in stillness, and someone mists you, right? A nice little rose mist or whatever the fuck. And you're just like,
I feel thousands of individual beads.
Holy, you feel every bead, and you feel this just like blanket of divinity like pour over you. And that is the subtlety of what Neptune brings us, is it's just like this blanket. So this new moon that's really birthing that is really bringing us that kind of misting of, and don't get it wrong. Just because it's mist doesn't mean that it doesn't smell, doesn't have aroma, doesn't have, potency behind it, right? You imagine misting yourself with a very strong perfume. It's a mist, but that's a very strong mist, and that's kind of that's what Neptune can be, and especially with Venus there. There's this is a very strong mist that we're experiencing, where we really are. We like the potency behind this is very, very important to talk about and to just have the awareness of, because without it, we will lose track of who we are. And that's what the mist serves as. It reminds us of where we are. It's like maybe we're getting lost in meditation. You're getting lost in the mind. You're having these little mind battles or whatever. You're thinking about your day, and all of a sudden someone mists you. It's like when someone rings the bell, in Buddhism. you do you're in meditation, and then they ring the bell, and it's like
Mhm.
it's a symbol that brings you back. If you're gone, if you're not here, well, it brings you back to presence. It's like it reminds you of what's here. And that's what the vision does. That's what those impulses do. That's what those little synchronicities do. They remind us, hey, you're here. Welcome. Hello. You're here. You're really here. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm here. And we need those. We need those little indicators because they remind us of our humanness. They remind us of why we're here. But and then maybe we don't need to be reminded of why we're here. Maybe we need to be reminded of our divinity, and that's also what it serves as. It gives us exactly what we need all the time, and that's the key. It always serves us. So if we need that, that's what the misting of kind of Neptune does. That's what the kind of waters of Pisces gives us. It's the misting in whatever way we need. Maybe we're hot and we need to cool down, so it's a nice cooling mist. Maybe we need to be reminded of our beauty. It's a beautiful, smelling mist. Or maybe we need to be reminded of how stanky we are, and it's like a mist of awareness. Or maybe we need to just have this I'm here, I'm present, I'm here,
My least favorite one is when I'm in the Neptunian state, I'm dreaming, and then I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, I'm a human being. And then I'm like, oh my God, I have hands. Oh my God, I'm alive. I forgot about this. And then it's like a different kind of, it's like the reverse of that, which is it's sometimes it's like a slap to the face because I'm so deeply intuned in dream world that when I come back to my human self, I'm like, this in itself is its own dimension. This in itself is its own state of being.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, really use this new moon, and this new moon is going to be very, very potent for those within the about 20 to 25 degree. If you have any planets in mutable signs or in Pisces, you're going to really, really feel that.
Yeah.
You're going to really, really feel that. Neptune's also squaring Juno during this time, so this is something there's something to be said about the energy towards relationships as well, and what we're wanting out of partnerships, and how relationships serve us. Do they serve us? Are they serving us? The Venus is there too, in that square. So this is really giving you an opportunity. This is an opportunity for growth. That's really what this new moon is giving us. It's an opportunity for growth and deep development, because when we have that from a like I said, from a grounded place, you're not in la la land. That's the kind of danger with Pisces, but you're not in la la land, because when it's integrated, it's embodied spiritual practices, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to have that embodied spiritual practice. We're here to bring in the waters of the divine to the 3D, the real tangible world, right? That's what we're here for. We're not here to just Shakti, just be in that kind of, whatever meditative state, and be in a cave somewhere. We're here to really call forth the divine waters within us and around us to serve us, because when you serve creation, creation serves you. And that's what we're here to do. And I really feel like the revelations, the downloads, the realizations, the visions that are coming forth from this new moon on March 13th, another Saturday, are so essential to setting ourselves up for success for the new astrological year, which is this is the the last new moon of the astrological year, right? And it's in Pisces, and we get to experience that. I mean, we get to experience that every year, but this year is quite magical. It's quite magical,
especially
Venus and Neptune there,
especially following last year.
yeah.
This is a year of the ox as well.
Year of the ox.
Year of the ox, following last year, which was the year of the rat.
Yes.
Year of the disease-filled rat.
All right, and then finally, to end the season, we've got Mercury entering Pisces as a kind of final little remnant of everything that's been going on, which will be nice.
Mercury really was going through it with Aquarius. I'm sure Mercury itself will be happy from Earth's perspective to be in Pisces.
Totally. And then we just will have that square with Mars, which is, I mean, this is productive energy, like Mercury in Pisces and Mars in Gemini. Like, this is movement. Again, it's moving the vision. It's communicating the vision. That's really what I can see this energy as. It's like, if you can have that, if you can tap into the vision and have the drive to explore the dimensions of that vision, then you can really, move forward with the expression of that. If you can't, then the challenge with Mercury and Pisces can be, finding the words, right? And then when we have this square with Mars and Gemini, it's like, well, let's find those words. How we, let's take the time to find those damn words. And then
especially
when we
as
find
it
them,
comes to the North Node like that too. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, Mercury will in Aries season, we'll talk about it, that square with the nodes. But yeah, in general, like, Mercury and Mars, this is a lot of times the best key to, paralysis by analysis is action, is doing. Now here, Mars says, well, we do through mental application, right? Getting all the variables sorted. That's what Mars and Gemini says when it meets in that square with Mercury. It's like, let's get the details sorted out. You got this vision? Okay, that's great. Like, let's get it a little bit clearer. Let's organize the data a little bit here, right? Organize. Gemini and Virgo both have that kind of aspect of organizing the data, organizing the information. That's a mercurial kind of nature of organization. It's like, let's take and I'm witnessing the information, I'm taking the information, and I'm putting it in a way that makes sense practically.
And the other part too is that with all this mutable energy, there's so much information that you got to omit a lot of the stuff that is extra, the distraction information.
Yeah, that's the organization. Is you're organizing it in a way that makes sense, which means that there's going to be some information that doesn't make sense.
Yep.
Right? There's going to be a lot of information that doesn't make sense, and there's going to be a lot of information that does make sense. And you take what works and you leave the rest.
It's important to not be so clingy with some information, though, which is something that we tend to get comfortable with. And right, that's the omitting process, which is just let it go, let it fade away. Information is information. It comes in and leaves. Exactly. And I think that's the beauty of Mercury in Pisces, is that, does it feel right? You don't need to sit there and get so overwhelmed with everything.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, all in all, this I would, compared to last season, we got a pretty relaxed season. I mean, there's still lots going on, but it's not as
some room to breathe.
There's some breathing room, and there's a lot of room for rest, which is good, because it's important to rest and nurture that vision before taking action in Aries season, which is what we're going to be doing. And all planets will be direct in Aries season, so it'll be a very good. Unfortunately, we won't have Mars in Aries, right? But all planets will be direct, and we'll be fucking going. And that's we're streamlining ahead here, people, and collectively and on an individual level. But it's all about the vision. If you don't have a clear vision, nothing will succeed. It all starts and ends with the vision. It all starts and ends with the waters. That's it. That's all. When you have that, everything works out. All the details come to you, all the people, places, experiences, it all, like I said, divine order. It looks all chaotic, but when you have the vision, that end goal, where you're trying to go with this, what you're trying to create with this, it all makes sense in the end. In the process, it's like, crazy. But then when you have that vision, though, you know what to look for, which means that you don't know how it's necessarily going to look along the way, but you know when you get there. You know when you get there, because that's what having a solid vision is all about. It's like, I know when I get there, I'll know I'm here. And until I'm there, I'll either be questioning, am I here yet? And then that means no. Or I don't know where I'm going. So like, how will I ever know if I'm going to be there? Right? That's why having a vision is so important. It's like, you need to know where you're going. You don't always need to know the path there, because there's lots of paths there. You don't always need to know the details of what train and route you're going to take, but you just need to know where you're going. And that can often be the hardest thing with Pisces, is because there's so much vision, there's so much data to work through. It's all because it's not just the physical data, it's all the non-physical data, which fuels the physical data, which is way more overwhelming than the physical data, right? It's like
Are my
extra
chakras
sensory data.
aligned?
Yeah.
You know, am I doing the perfect thing to live my life perfectly
Yes.
in a perfect harmony with all that is?
Just
Yeah.
inner being, connect with the
Yep.
inner being. And when you can connect with yourself and not put that power out there, you don't want to put the power out there. You're not projecting it out there. You're being that source, that overflowing cup of source. And when you can be that embodiment of it, things work out.
Great. I'm looking forward to Pisces season. I'm excited to see things starting to move forward. Still giving us time to go back in, go inward, and to process, to then take productive and hopefully practical steps towards a beautiful 2021.
Aries season. Let's go. We're all ready for astrological new year. That's for sure.
Yep.
Always a pleasure. Thanks to everybody who tuned in live. I appreciate you all for watching, and always a pleasure to have you on, Brent, and do this with you. Make sure you smash the like and subscribe button, and click the link below. I haven't posted it yet, but I will. If you're watching the replay, it'll be down below, of our 2021 horoscopes, or you can go to 2021horoscopes.com and get your lovely rising sign horoscopes, or check out the full yearly overview of what 2021 has in store for all of us, and some of our predictions. So always a pleasure once again, and thank you for taking the time to tune in with us. Thank you. Can't do this without you. So much love, and we'll see you for Aries season, my friends.